Welcome back to another Buddies, Booze, Banters, Unfiltered Conversations. I'm Rick.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Alex.
Well, okay.
I'm doing
going,
great, by
Alex?
the way. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
We got to give our producers credit.
Well, have you
It's
recuperated
the
now?
only shot I get. It's my only 15 seconds of fame.
Well, we'll give you 15 if you want. Minutes, you know. I mean,
But those 15 minutes are worth a fortune.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, love your shirt.
Oh my
thank
God!
you.
Here we go again. So, interesting thing actually happened this Monday, yesterday, and that was somebody's favorite show premiere.
And whose show might that be?
Yeah, definitely is not mine.
Me and my friends love the show. It's been on for over 20 years.
It has, and what we are talking about, of course, is NCIS.
Yes.
Or the original NCIS.
Yeah, the original.
Tell us about it, Michael.
I mean,
I hear it's a tearjerker.
well, it could have been worse. I was expecting a really tearjerker because last week was the season opener.
Gotcha.
And so they kind of closed it from the cliffhanger that they had. So then, but the way they ended it, you knew that it was going to be sad because the actor that plays Ducky in real life had passed away.
Gotcha.
At the age of 90 in September. So you knew that they were going to have to deal with it sooner or later, and you just knew that it was going to happen or whatever. And so
And he was one of the original cast members, wasn't
yeah, no, he was there from the very beginning. And so then, so it's like basically,
Actually, I think about that. You know, he was 90. What, 90?
he was 90 when he died.
There's hope for us to actually have a good career after 70 then.
Yeah.
Because he was in there when he got that position when he was 70.
Well, no, actually, he would have been younger. He would have been in his late 60s because the show's been on for more than 20 years.
I thought it was like 21 seasons.
Well, 90, you take that, it's going to be 69.
Oh, well, hey, you have some hope.
Oh, thank you. So, so you knew it was going to be that where Ducky was going to die or whatever, and it was just the way they.
I'm giving you the whole time to talk about this, but he died in his sleep is how they did it, though, right?
Yes,
which I think is actually what happened in real life.
That's what I was. Yeah, it was. It was like I was about to say is they didn't make it spectacular or anything like that.
Yeah.
He just died in his sleep. Palmer was going as the way they set it up is Palmer was going to go see him, and when he got there. Ducky had passed away in his sleep.
I got to say that, and again, like I said, I'll let you take on, but that is probably the best way they could have approached that whole thing. You know, simply because it did it very tastefully.
And so then they did. He just died in his sleep, and then ultimately he was going to get involved in a case before he died. Because actually, the way they set it up, Palmer was supposed to come the night before he died, and because he had a case that he wanted to kind of talk over with Palmer, but he died, and so nobody really knew about it. But then ultimately, the show kind of started. What was his case and everything else is, and so they got to whatever Ducky's last case he wanted to do. They got it, and they got it all solved. So it was, and they brought back a lot of kind of past history or whatever.
Yeah,
shows.
I was watching a little bit on that on TikTok today, and I saw one of those characters, and I'll let you talk about it a bit. He was my favorite character.
Which one? You're giving me a look? I don't know.
Well, obviously the rest were dead. They couldn't come back from the dead.
No.
They were killed on the show.
No, they weren't.
Most of them were.
No, they weren't.
Besides Mark Harmon, but he didn't show up on this one. But, Weatherby, his last name's Weatherly.
Right.
You know, he's actually, but I mean,
Tony.
Donoso.
He played Tony Donoso.
Yeah. I loved him. He was I loved his sarcasm. I loved his, tongue in cheek. I love his granted a little sexist.
He made a cameo at the end.
Yeah, and I thought that was very also tastefully done in how he approached it, and no jokes, with the exception of that's how Ducky would have wanted it. So,
and I mean the way they played,
folks, I'm just for clarity, I have not watched it. These were outtakes that I saw on social media.
But the way they played it, because he was the only one from the past,
right,
that didn't make an appearance. But the way they played it out, there could have been the others. They just didn't make it black or white there. Because, I mean, you said everybody's dead. I mean, on that show of
Well-
all the characters that have been on that show, there's only one. Ducky's the only character that has died in real life.
No, I get that. I'm talking about on the show dead. You know, so you can't necessarily bring. I mean, so the very first female lead, or
She's the only one
Yeah.
that has died. Everybody else left.
no, actually, the original director left. Was killed. Shot, killed. Remember the redhead,
Okay.
which I
Well,
thought
she was only on there for like 3 seasons, so I don't consider
I
her.
loved her. She was a badass. I loved her character.
Well, I mean, okay, so but on that, but at the main, some of the
Now, what
main.
happened to the one from the Mossad? And then initially they thought she was killed.
Well, they thought she was killed. And then ultimately, she came back.
And she'd actually had a baby, and it happened to be Denozo.
Yeah, but then when they died, Denozo got the baby or whatever, was being the dad, because they thought she had died. And then ultimately, a few years later, she kind of came back.
Had she been like captured or something like that? I'm not sure.
She was on the run because
Gotcha.
supposedly somebody wanted to have her killed, and that if they knew that she was alive, they would go after the baby. So she was playing dead.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
But she eventually came back, did several episodes, 1 season or whatever.
I liked her character too.
And then she was then basically to go off
She's also
to go
hot.
see Tony and the baby. So then Tony was there, but then Ziva wasn't there. So, but then,
Right.
but the way they played it, it could have been, I mean, it was just like Tony came in for a thing and then they were going to go see it. So there could be a lot of other people.
And Tony's character left to take care of his daughter, and,
Yes.
and I think he moved to London, was it?
I think it was London.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
But so
that's about all I know now.
So I mean, but so all in all, I mean, it was great. It was like I just hate to see Ducky, but he was 90 years old, and they did it with a bunch of dignity. And I still love the show.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been on for over 20 years, and it's like, but with the cast that keeps changing, that they keep making great casting with characters or whatever.
Well, they do it seamlessly. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's purpose as to why one cast member is leaving, or a finality of some sort, whether it be a sniper took her out, or something along those lines.
But it did. What was it? Season 18 or 19? I think it was end of 18 and then the beginning of 19. That's when it kind of like you had like 3 major characters leave. You first had what was it? Sloane. That she left.
Oh, that was a blonde, wasn't it?
That was the blonde
Yeah.
that kind of had a thing with Gibbs.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, I just saw.
I mean,
her,
they
like,
had a
outtakes.
great connection. Everything else is. I loved her, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, but she had left, and then at the end of the season, the one that played Eleanor, she left.
I don't know who that one was.
She was the blonde. She kind of like took over after Ziva left.
Okay.
And she was on there for like about 5 years or whatever. And then there was kind of making it a little love interest between her and Nick.
Oh, the guy from Venezuela.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then she left, and I don't really know why she left. I think she had a baby or whatever, but she left. And then so there was 2 kind of main characters, and then when the season, I think 19 started, Mark Harmon stayed on for like about the first 5 or 6 episodes, and then he left.
Yeah.
So, but once Mark left, I mean, it's kind of changed a little, but you still have some of the cast in this. But it's like this. They just got a great cast there.
Well, obviously, there are some of those storylines that are ripped from the headlines, as I like to say, but knowing from personal experience, the amount of espionage and intrigue and sniper killings and all that, it really is about the NCIS. It actually does in real life, but hey, it's good entertainment.
But I mean, but what makes it more where it's lasted as long as it has is because the cast and how they make it more like a family.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
mean-
I don't know if that's in real life that actually happens with the NCIS crew, just simply because the military does such divisions.
Well, no, I get that, but the way the cast they get together and all like that, it makes it more like a family. It's just not like a show or anything.
And I think
like that.
I think in real life, and the NCIS actually has an actual active duty liaison as well. So, and it's all interesting. I mean, so I'm glad you enjoyed it. And what I'm really glad about is, as a human, as an individual who obviously spent 90 years on this earth, a great actor.
he was.
I mean,
He was in
across
The
the
Man
board.
from Uncle in the
Right.
late '60s.
But for one, I also understand that he was just a good person.
That's what I've heard.
And, and of course, from England, which I love, that's definitely a good thing for me in that regard. So I'm glad they did him dignity. I'm glad they actually put his storyline to rest on a good way of doing it versus kind of like, assassinated or something along those lines. So great to hear about that one.
But if they didn't have the actor strike and all that stuff he might have been in a few more episodes before he passed away.
Yeah, because typically they begin production in August. So you're probably right. He may have been in a couple of those.
No, they would have. They usually start things by May or something like that because the season usually starts at the end of September.
Tells you I'm not an actor.
We know that. You can just listen to this podcast and you can tell you're not an actor.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're referring to yourself or you?
I didn't say I was. I'm the sidekick here.
What else you got?
Hey, this weekend also was the NBA All-Star Game.
I remember you saying that last week that it was coming in this week, and that was after the NHL had theirs.
Yeah, they had, I think, the week before. I'm at the point now where I think most people are is, why the hell are we having these All-Star games?
Well, kind of back it up. What is the premise and the purpose of it?
The purpose is, all the big stars or the best players or whatever.
Right.
You're supposed to get them together. They have like a week or half a week where they do all kinds of like activity, and then you finally have the game where it's the All-Star games, where it's like usually one league against the other league or whatever, and they're all stars, and you kind of play.
Right.
And so, I can remember
Who selects them?
Huh?
Who selects them?
The fans.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, the fans select. So a lot of times it's
It
can be a popularity
well,
contest.
Which
is no big deal because that's who the fans want to see.
But obviously, with the exception of myself, which I actually tend to like somebody who is probably not a lot of court time and not as many baskets and stuff like that. Since you remind me of it all the time, most of the individuals who are the huge fan base are really the ones who are good.
Yeah.
So they're probably picking the right ones.
Well, and it's like no problem with that but over the course of, let's just say, the last 5 to 10 years, these all-star games have just become nothing. And this is just not basketball.
Okay, you haven't gotten to the point as to why you think it's just a waste of time.
All right, because the game that they played this past Sunday, they almost scored 400 points in that game. It was like
I get 200 points, but 400?
Yeah, no, 400. What was it? It was like two. I have to.
Was it double the amount of time they usually play?
No, there was no defense at all. It was just going down there, hit a basket or whatever. It was what 211 to 188.
So the All-Star, you have the best of the best selected by the fans. They get out there, they do a week series of different types of events and yada yada, and then they give the main game. And at the end of it, whoever wins or not, even though everybody on these teams are from every other team, what's the ultimate goal?
The goal is to kind of have a game out there where you showcase some of your people. There was no defense, period, in this game. There was no basketball in this game. It was just like, you make a basket, you throw it to people, and then it's like people would go up go up close to the basket, and then all the other players would just move out of the way.
So that would lead me to believe that like what we were talking about, the conspiracies on the NFL side of things, that this was actually staged one.
Yeah, because you get it where these players now, and I get it on injuries or whatever, anything can happen, everything else is.
But yeah, you want to protect them.
You want to protect them, but then it's like, that's fine. But if you're not going to play any defense, then why have the game in the first place?
Yeah,
you look at it. In the past, they used to. Players used to play. I'm not saying they play extremely hard.
But I'm gonna paraphrase you or basically quote you. And not necessarily it was related to NBA or basketball, but just in general, it's all about money.
Well, I know it is, but it's like, I've heard so much complaints.
Yeah.
From sportscasters and everything else is, and it's not just basketball because NFL.
Yeah.
Basically, they kind of turned it into a flag football type stuff. It's just like,
because unless you're really playing for a title, you don't want to injure your players and put them in harm's way. I understand the thought process, but then you really need to reallocate what the the reasoning and the actual goals of these these all stars.
But the point now is with the players, they just don't want to get hurt and all stuff. That's like I get that. I get that to a point. But then why have these games? Just make the announcements. Here's the all stars. All stuff
again, it's money. It's money.
Yeah, but I guarantee after this week, they're going to be really thinking about this.
It definitely sounds kind of ludicrous to see 400 points actually scored in one game.
And actually, I want to say, as if I recall, there was like 100 points scored in the fourth quarter alone.
Well, I mean, 400 and get 100
well, I
each
know,
player.
But it's just like, I mean, come on.
So there's only 100 in the other one. There has to be another quarter that actually had more points scored. It's just logical.
Well, that's true too. But I'm just saying, it's just. How can that be entertainment? You just get okay, it might be fun for the first 5 minutes, but then after that, it's just okay.
Maybe they need to repurpose the goal. Maybe they need to come up with a different process as exactly why we're having these all-star games.
And then it's funny because then it's like, and I did not watch it. I've just seen, I watched part of it, but then it's just like, I saw some people that are, some of the clips or whatever, but it's like at the end when the NBA commissioner was talking about this guy scoring so many points, it's like, you had to look at his face, and it's like, oh my God.
His credibility went down the drain.
It's just like, all right. It's like you kind of knew. It's like, all right, we know we got a problem with this, but I'm just trying to make the best that I can out of this.
Yeah. Well, let's be the spin
doctor.
doctor.
Just like, but I'm just saying is like all stars games. What they used to be is not the same now or whatever. So the point is like why? I mean, I guess money is kind of doing it, but it's like it's dwindling down. It's because baseball was bad too or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the only one that I can say right now
NHL
that seems like it's more legitimate than the rest of them is the hockey.
Yeah, I mean, you and I we were at the pub the other day, one of their pubs, and when there was going on the All-Star night, and I just thought that the different types of competitions that they were doing was extremely interesting, and it wasn't necessarily the premier stars either. It was completely across the ranks of individuals who were trying to get the goalies and the speed and things. I just thought it was very fascinating but I also think that there's a lot of different aspects in the NHL that is actually kind of measurable, and also it's not like you can measure speed inside of the NBA. Now you can obviously in NFL and all that. And you can do an NBL for the throwing of the pitch and things of that sort. I just think there's a lot of little different components that you can actually measure differently in the NHL. But I was very interested in seeing the trials and the competitions that they were doing there as well.
But it's like but then when they actually had the actual All-Star game, at least they were playing hockey.
Right. Hey, I sounded pretty smart on sports there, didn't I?
Well, I know you are because it's like I'm teaching you.
Well, I don't know if you're teaching me everything, but
I'm not saying everything, but I'm at least teaching enough where you can at least talk about it intelligently. But I'm just saying,
I can talk about anything intelligently. I can bullshit anything.
No, that's true. You can.
I mean,
you know that. But it's just like the All-Star games are just. I don't know what the purpose is anymore or whatever.
Well, we know what the purpose is.
Well, we know
money.
it's money or whatever, but it's like after this one, it's just like.
Yeah, well, maybe you're right. There's a time to rethink the whole ulterior big picture goal, things of that sort. And that's not for us to say.
No,
naturally,
it's not. But I'm just saying it's just like. But it's like I have not. I mean, this is the first. Well, I'm sure it's happened some, but I'm just telling. The NBA is getting so bashed this week.
So who's bashing them?
Oh, all sports announcers and everybody, because it's just like.
Which I mean, you're talking about airwave dollars too, so that's a dissuader for sure.
And then LeBron James is getting a lot of bash because a few of the sportscasters are blaming him because he's not trying that hard on the All-Star games, and so that gives everybody else the.
Isn't he at retirement age anyways?
Well, he is or whatever.
He's made his billions.
I know. I mean, I used to be a LeBron James fan, but I'm no longer.
Well, I mean, I haven't watched his history in NBA and all that, and I don't know too much in regards to what his record is. But, I mean, I know that, one game when they were playing the Mavs, he was pretty arrogant.
He's totally arrogant.
Yeah. I mean on the court itself, it's just like real. I mean, it was so blatantly obvious as well.
I mean, I believe he was talented and everything else is.
Well,
And
yeah,
I used to, and when he came in the
But
NBA,
you can be
he
humble
played-
with your talent,
He
too.
played for Cleveland, and I was a fan of his.
Yeah.
And then there was two things that happened where it turned me against LeBron. The first one was he was playing for Cleveland. His contract was out. And it was like, okay. And so then where is he going to go next? And so as I have no problem with people wanting to go for the bigger and better contracts and titles and all that
Well,
stuff.
and also
is-
making sure you have the right team players around you,
and
too.
I get that or whatever. But he made a big spectacle out of it where there was like an ESPN show. Where are we going to go? And it's like,
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, in order for that to get on air, it was obviously backed by the network.
It was.
And they
ESPN did it or whatever.
And they were trying. I mean, which is ABC. They were trying to kind of pivot off of like ratings and stuff like that because of his popularity.
I mean, I get all that
i.e.
stuff.
money.
But I'm just saying is, but for him as a player and all this other stuff is, he shafted everybody in Cleveland because he says, I'm going to Miami so I can win titles and all that stuff is.
Is he still in Miami?
No.
He's in L.A.
No, he's in L.A. now.
But apparently that's where he wanted to end his career. Correct?
What?
L.A.
Well, I think that's where he wants to now.
Yeah.
But so that was the
And
first.
isn't he a free agent though too?
I could be.
Yeah.
But it's like, so that was the first thing.
I
where
have
it's like,
more information. See, I'm smart.
That
I've been
was
reading.
the first thing that kind of get, because basically it's like, okay, if you wanted to go to Miami, fine. Say you're going to go to Miami, but then you do this big production and you shaft your original team.
Let me tell
and all
you
that stuff
something.
is-
Let me tell you something.
Okay.
Somebody's going to pay me, and sorry.
I'm just saying.
I've got Joe Blow
I'm just
like
saying,
low on
but
the
I'm
end.
just
He's
saying
going to complain about it. I don't care.
But I'm just saying is that show did a lot to tarnish his image, and then
Well, it's always a gamble.
and
It's a gamble.
No, I get it. But then the second thing that really totally pushed me over the edge on LeBron is like,
and he
okay,
pissed you off.
well, yeah, but ultimately we got the good end of it. It was back. Okay, so then he went to Miami, so he wanted to win titles or whatever.
I don't blame him.
So then what did they do in was it 2011? Miami and the Dallas Mavericks were playing
Yeah.
in the NBA Finals, and if I recall, Miami won the first two games or whatever, so they were up 2-0 or whatever, and I think the Mavs won the game 3, and I think it was game 4 where Dirk was basically putting the team on his and just all the stuff is, and he was sick and wasn't feeling well, and it's just like you saw what was it, Wade and LeBron basically on TV going, yeah, Dirk's hurt, Dirk's sick, whatever, and all this other stuff is. We ended up winning that game.
Yeah.
I mean, we won the series. We just pushed it down their throat or whatever.
That was the last time they won, though, right?
Well, it's the only time we won. But it was just like, but here there was is he went to Miami just to get this title.
And don't
or
get me
whatever.
wrong. Don't get me wrong. I am 100% through and through a Dallas Mavs fan. So I mean,
And so that was the other thing is like, Dirk is one of the nicest players.
he is.
And
yeah.
all this other stuff is, and it's just like he doesn't play. I mean, he doesn't do the drama stuff.
He
or
doesn't deal
whatever.
with the bullshit either.
And I mean, here you are. You have like LeBron and Wade basically making fun of Dirk because he's sick.
Yeah, I mean, but we let's be honest. I mean, it's all entertainment. It's like, let me get me on camera. Let me get this, like,
But I'm just saying is, but it's just like
just like politicians.
well, of course, or whatever.
like
but
actors.
I know, but I'm just saying is, but that's where I was like a fan of LeBron,
Yeah.
and I'm just telling you the two things that happened where it's like I'm no longer a Bronx fan. Now you look at it, it's like, okay, Dirk played all of his games at the Dallas Mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
There is a big statue outside of the AAC.
We were out there when they actually revealed
yeah.
it,
So it's like he's got this
which was
big
Christmas
statue.
Day 2 years ago.
It was.
Which is fucking cold out there, and you dragged me out there, but that was fine. I enjoyed
It's
it.
fine. You don't have to go.
Well, we went to the game afterwards, but I enjoyed it. But yes,
And so then, and so you look at like Michael Jordan. He's got outside Chicago.
Yeah.
They got a statue of him there. You look at LeBron James. Who's going to put a statue in front of him? Because he started out at
Yeah.
Cleveland, then he went to Miami.
Well, he
then he
definitely
went to
won.
Cleveland, and then he went to L.A.
he definitely would get it in L.A. I mean, because obviously the 3 statues that they've revealed, specifically for Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
I mean,
LeBron he's moved around so many places. No one city is going to put him as there.
well,
and
I
it's
mean,
like I
at the
look
end
at it.
at the end of the day, though, I mean, at the end of his career, he's obviously made bank. He's set for life. I don't know how what his
Oh, I
age
get,
at this
I
stage.
get it, but
you know.
I'm just not a big fan of his. Or whatever.
And, you know-
and so one
he's also
one
not a
aspect
man,
is
so
when
who
we talk
cares?
about statues. This is to Luca. Luca, if you're listening to our podcast, stay in Dallas.
Yeah, you know,
We'll do what we're going to try to do everything we can to get the team around you. And if you do, because you know the city
Be a team
loves
pl-
you,
be a
to-
team player, though.
loves you to death.
don't be a crybaby. Be a team player.
Well, no, I get it,
Yeah.
but it's like this. You know, the city loves you, and it's like you stick your entire career here. You're going to have a statue out there too.
yeah, I mean, it would be nice
that
to see
your
him mature
kids
here.
can go see all the time or whatever.
Yeah, it would be nice to see him actually mature, and not only as an individual, but also in his profession here in Dallas, just like Dirk did. I mean, Dirk obviously is a great example of who and how you should actually be involved in basketball.
I mean, 21 years with one team.
Yeah. Well, even today, even what he's involved. I mean, he was.
No.
Most people don't realize that he was actually involved in bringing FIFA here. You know, so I mean, he's always about DFW. He considers this his home now. You know, so I mean, he really is about the community.
And speaking of statues, later in a couple of month or two, Mike Madonna is supposed to get a statue out there
I heard that. Yeah.
for Dallas Stars.
I mean, I'd be interested to see, you know, what day it is, if there's any like kind of specialness about that besides like, you know, Dirk on that Christmas Day, which I thought was right on Christmas Day. You know, I mean, it was cold as fuck out there, but I mean, it was still nice out there. And to see
But I
the
think it's
plaza
supposed
filled.
to be. It's either March or April. Like I can't remember.
Well, I mean, the weather's going to be nice no matter what. I mean, here we are at 76 today.
But Mike Madonna is going to get a statue out there, and it's just
That
like,
might be long overdue.
well,
But I think that it also has to do because that plaza's been there about 10, 12, 15 years.
no, over 20.
Well, I think that, you know, it's
The
morphed.
ACC has been
but,
there.
But the plaza's morphed because WFAA was there, and now it's gone, and now restaurants were in and out. It's
Yeah, but
it's finally solidifying themselves as a kind of a great spot there now. So I
well,
mean,
it was a better spot before, and then it kind of died down. Now
Yeah.
it's kind of building back up or whatever.
but don't you think it's like overdue for him?
well,
I mean, how many years after, you know, Dirk retired that he got his? Now, I'm not, again, different league. I get that.
anything. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the rationale.
Yeah.
But it's like, but I lived in Minneapolis for 12 years. I was
Right.
born and raised here in Dallas, but I lived there, and so I lived in Minneapolis when before they were the Dallas Stars, they were the Minnesota North Stars.
Right.
And I was there when Mike Madonna's rookie year, when it was for the Minnesota North Stars. And so it was like, I think it was 95 when the Stars moved to Dallas. I was the only one in Minnesota that was happy because I
You knew you'd be back there eventually.
loved hockey or whatever. And it's like I knew I was going to eventually end up back in Dallas, and having the Stars go to Dallas. I knew they were going to be my team and it'd be great because I seen them before and all that stuff but I was the only one that was happy because everybody in Minnesota was just impressed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely impressive that he's going to get that statue out there, and hopefully I have an opportunity to see it with you too. So, I mean, that's awesome.
Yes.
You know, but let's kind of move on to something that I want to, you know, again,
What you want to talk about?
it's a controversy.
Okay.
I think I'm actually known about controversies at this stage here, but anyhow,
That's your middle name.
This is Texas related, though.
Okay.
You know, this isn't national politics or national news. Well, actually, slightly it is. And I don't know if everybody's, especially in Texas, they probably haven't heard about it just simply because they have the tendency of just perusing over any articles and facts and stuff like that. But obviously the Democrats and in Congress are attempting to actually put a law into place that's going to ensure that the Texas power grid is attached to the national power grid. Now, if everybody remembers,
Okay, wait. Say that again.
oh, well,
I'm not following.
Texas, I mean,
That's its own grid.
and let's kind of like do some history kind of explaining here, or, you know, kind of regurgitation of it. Back in 2021 in February, obviously we had the severe weather, what was ice, and it was like, you know, below zero, and it shut down the city for
A week.
or so. And,
we were
actually
below-
it shut down the state.
Yeah.
Shut down the state. And across the state, I think it was like 700 individuals who died simply because the power grid failed us. So, I mean, I know that my place literally was up and down on power for the entire week. I don't know about your place here, but
I had power, but my pipes froze.
Right. Well, that's more you. You should have insulated them. But I mean, from the grid perspective, the grid failed
It did.
every citizen of the state of Texas, and with the exception of one city, which was El Paso,
Well, because they're not in the grid.
they actually opted to be on the national grid. So even though they actually were having the extreme weather and the temperatures that we were having here in Dallas, they had full power the entire time. But because of Greg Abbott and his like crony bullshit crap that he actually opted to stay out of the national grid, let alone, of course, thing shut down on us. Go back into the next year. Obviously, there was issues there. There was obviously issues during the summertime. We're having brownouts. We're having blackouts, things of that sort. So it's either from one extreme to it's cold or hot. And obviously here in Texas we do that. We go back and forth. Well,
Primarily, it's hot.
well, yeah. I think.
But we do have our cold moments.
Well, we
but
had.
it's
I think we had our winter week.
We did this year.
We had our winter week. But the Democrats in Congress want to get Texas back on the grid, the national grid, so that
It ain't gonna happen.
I get that. Well, actually, if it passes through that, it has to get ratified here by the state. You're right there. And obviously, being a GOP kind of like supermajority, it may not. But the interesting kind of like spin on that, and it kind of like catapults us into a different category. The Texas Nationalists, and for anybody out there who wants a definition of nationalist, just go out and Google it or look it up in the dictionary. Really, they're secessionists, individuals who want to secede Texas from the United States. And basically they're in an uproar about it, and they're basically saying that the reason that the Democrats are doing it is to actually preclude, which is it's an inevitable that Texas is going to secede from the United States. And that's the whole purpose behind it. Inevitable. So let me clarify. Texas, at some point, according to the actual Texas Nationalists, individuals who want to secede from the United States, no longer be part of the 50 states or anything of that sort, or even a territory. They want to be their own country. Think that there's a plan to do that by pulling them on there. I don't know how that affects El Paso, but I mean I think that's a kind of separate issue. Maybe they'll join New Mexico or something along those lines, because that's a border town or something along those lines. But really, kind of what the bigger argument is: can they really secede from Texas, the United States? I mean, and really, I want to talk about a little bit of the pros and cons of what it is. And let me just tell you something out there. I mean, straight in the camera, there's a hell of a lot more cons than there are pros. A hell of a lot more. And I mean, we can literally go down the list and get into. We could spend an entire podcast and probably two more after that talking about just the cons alone. I mean, let's just talk about benefits across the board. I mean, anybody currently here in the state of Texas who receives any type of benefits from the federal government of the United States, it stops day one that you are no longer a part of the United States. Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, whatever it may be, you no longer get it. You no longer have a national military who protects you. So every single one of these bases that are based here, and we actually have the most bases in the entire United States, pulls out. So millions of individuals who are civilians who are actually employed in the state of Texas are now unemployed. You can't call on the phone and say, hey, where's my Social Security check? Hey, where's my food stamps? You don't get it anymore. You're no longer a part of the United States. I mean, we can go on and on. This entire ridiculously bullshit thing that we're going to secede from the United States simply because we want to be autonomy. We want to be able to make our own laws and own rules. First of all, you do make your own laws and own rules. There just happens to be federal laws that you cannot, oversee. I mean, I just find it just ridiculous. Now, there are some pros. I'm going to be fair. There are some pros. They say the government would be more effective in governing. Maybe.
Okay.
There is a lot of corruption. There's a lot of kind of like wheeling and dealing inside of Congress and D.C. I think there's a little bit here in Austin as well, but I mean, that's beside the point. Because they think it's going to be based upon the specific needs and the values of individuals here in Texas. Maybe so. I mean, get it, And they also try to say that, we are going to be the 29th largest economy in the world. Yeah, you would be until everything that you actually had coming in from the rest of the country is no longer there. But, hey, that's fine. You'll have a robust economy and potentially manages resources and tax dollars. Well, yeah. But also, how many tax dollars do you receive from the federal government on an annual basis? You actually pay in less than you receive here in Texas, which is most of the red states out there. They actually pay less.
So would we have to have a passport to go to New Mexico or
Oklahoma? I would not just a passport, but probably a fucking visa just to go to Arkansas or to Louisiana or New Mexico or Arizona or Colorado. You go to DFW, guess what? First of all, DFW will probably shut down because that's actually, I don't know if it's nationally owned or federally owned, but it definitely, I don't see them actually, every single one of those, American Airlines is out. They're out of here. This is no longer our hub. Southwest, we're out of here. So this whole economic, control that we would have would simply just dissipate simply because these large corporations, first of all, I'm not going to stay in a state or now a country that doesn't have a good trade deal with the other 49 and other community or territories in the United States, because I'm pretty sure the federal government's going to be kind of pissed. And they're not going to actually do, really good trade deals. So you're kind of out on your own. Maybe you can deal with Russia. Maybe you can deal with Cuba. Maybe you can deal with Venezuela. Maybe you can deal with North Korea. Maybe you can deal with China. And maybe you can eventually make that up over the decades. I mean, so this whole kind of, and I think it's kind of hand in hand in regards to those individuals who think that Trump's the best thing ever. They just don't think things through. I mean, there's so many ramifications about saying we're going to secede, and it's inevitable that it's going to. No, it's not inevitable. What's inevitable is you're just going to be stupid, and just deal with it.
It's not going to happen. Let's just put that way. They can talk all they want. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Wow.
Because
I don't know exactly. I mean, obviously I could do the.
I don't know what to say because stupid is stupid.
It is as stupid as it possibly can, and we've actually collected enough signatures to say that they cannot do this in regards to the power grid. I mean, it's just you have no fucking control over what the National Congress does. And yes, you can take them to court, meaning the administration. Greg Abbott's administration can take the federal government to court and say, oh, no, we can't enforce this, it's unconstitutional, whatever they may be. Come up with whatever legal argument they want. I'm sorry. I don't care if you have 105,000 signatures. That don't mean shit. Doesn't mean shit when it comes to the federal government. So keep thinking that you have this, this thrill that I'm no longer going to be a part of the United States. Trust me, you may be on day one the 29th biggest economy in the world.
But it will start tanking.
By day two, I'll be the 500th because it's ridiculous.
Because those are based on the rules that are currently there. And if you just succeed,
and all the benefits,
all the change is going to change.
And all the benefits of the federal government, all the military bases, all the military personnel, all the trade that goes on. Because they're like, oh, we are the number one trade. Yeah, you are, but do you really think the other 49 states are going to start trading with you? No, they're going to look somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And they're going to actually probably buy from another state because the companies that are producing it here in Texas are going to move. It's that simple. I mean, the
well, if that happened,
ignorance.
Trump's going to want to put a fence around Texas.
Well, so I think this is what should happen. First of all, I will move. I mean,
that's a given.
I mean, I'm more a United States citizen, not a Texas citizen.
I was born here. I was born in Dallas.
Well, I mean, you got to make a choice.
Well,
are you going to give your citizenship of the country of Texas or the United States?
It ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Well, but I do believe that the best thing to happen is that Trump becomes president of Texas.
Oh God!
Let him become the president here, and basically try to say, hey, this is a social experiment. Economics experiment. Just go for it.
We've got to never mind.
What?
This is getting too out of it. This is like
that is 100% my point. Is the fact of the matter is first of all, why wouldn't we want to be on the national grid? 700 individuals lost their lives. 700. These aren't.
It's cheaper. In Texas.
Actually, it's not actually cheaper. Because our costs are higher than other parts of the country. It literally was a political statement by Abbott. There has nothing to do with money. It is a political politics bullshit. That's the problem. And he literally allowed people to die in their homes simply because he would not budge and he wanted to make a political statement. It's the same thing that he's doing. It's the same thing that what he's doing on the border right now. Same thing. Putting up barricades and shooting people and then shipping them off to different states and things of that sort. I mean, bottom line is like he is trying to actually play upon vulnerabilities and things of that sort. So bottom line is like it won't happen. You're right. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that even that it gets airwaves, even that the fact that it gets headlines, even the fact that individuals who I would hope to be somewhat intelligent individuals that are not. You may be the 29th biggest economy in the entire world right now, but
it would change.
That's pure fucking luck right now.
And it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, well, anyhow.
There's enough normal people here in Texas that would
we would
prevent
hope
that.
We would hope, because if they were more than enough, Abbott should have been in office a long time ago. Seriously, he should have. I mean, there is literally nothing about his policies and Patrick and the Attorney General that really are actually in the interests of Texans.
But I'm gonna.
You're a Texan, so you tell me.
No, I am, because it's like you got to look at the alternatives. On the Democratic side, there has not been really a very strong alternative.
I will agree that the front runner hasn't always been the strong alternative. I get that, but I mean, it's like it's about who we surround them with as well too. I mean, so there's a bigger picture here. Bottom line is, if you look at the actual ranks of who actually is currently in government, are they any fucking stronger? Are they any more about the people?
I mean,
or are they about lining their own fucking pockets?
What's going to be interesting is, on the Senate side, a bunch of people do not like Ted Cruz, and that includes Republicans.
Yeah, but you're talking nationally. I'm talking about here in the state of Texas.
No, because
in the Texas House.
No, but I'm just talking about for Texas. I mean, Texas votes for their senators.
I get that.
And it's like when Beto went against Cruz the first time.
Yeah, but you're talking from a national office perspective. I'm talking about state offices. Why haven't they voted Abbott out? Why haven't they voted Patrick out? You literally had
because you have to have an alternative.
But you literally had an attorney general who literally was actually on corruption and affairs and stuff like that, who was impeached but yet bought off. Republicans in the House of Texas were bought off to not impeach him.
I'm just saying you have to have an alternative. And there has not
Let me tell you something.
For the Democratic side, there has not been that many alternatives.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not getting my point.
Because you don't have a point.
No, I do.
I'm just telling you have to have an alternative.
You're literally comparing these alternatives to what we currently have. What is so good about them? Even if these people are, somewhat weak in popularity and stuff like that, what is so much better about these who are currently in office than these individuals who run against them?
I am just saying.
I think it has something to do that another topic that we'll talk about, which is gerrymandering, which we'll talk about at some point. But anyhow.
But I'm just saying you have to have good opponents, and that's the part in Texas right now is you've not had.
That's Texas, that's national, that's local.
But what I'm going to say is what's going to be interesting to see what's happening is because it's like where you brushed me off when I was talking about Ted Cruz.
I wasn't brushing you off.
Ted Cruz basically, what was it, the last go around when Beto went against him?
Beto had a good chance.
Beto had a great chance and almost pulled it off. Well, now,
Colin.
But what I was going to say is that then Beto just ultimately went too far to the left.
No, and that whole gun thing.
Well, but I'm just saying he went too far to the left, and then it's like, so when he went for the governor, then it was just like, you went too far.
Even then, he looked as an opportunist.
But then it's like, okay, Cruz is up again this time. And he's
for his third term, even though he actually wants term limits of 2 times.
And so Colin Allred is going against him.
And Colin, I've met him. Obviously, he's a former football player, businessman. He's a great individual in regards to being more moderate. He's not one of those extreme lefts.
And so, and again, I just heard just the other day, come on the polls or whatever, Colin might be ahead of Cruz.
I haven't seen that poll. I'll be interested to see that poll because last poll I saw,
because like I said,
Cruz is ahead.
A lot of Republicans do not like Ted Cruz. Yeah. And so it's like, but you have to have good candidates if you're going to do
I mean,
something.
there's-
And that's where the point I was like getting in Texas. It's like,
Well, I mean,
they
there-
don't put good candidates in there. Granted, they might not have many.
Well, I mean, again, I'm the question that I have to is like, what is your definition of good? Because Cruz
Somebody
is,
that
Cruz,
could-
Cruz
somebody that
isn't
could-
fucking good.
but
He's an idiot.
no, but it's like, but you're talking about. I mean, Republicans.
I get that, but I mean,
But it's like
bottom
you
line
have to
is
have a
like you're
good
not doing an
Democrat
apples
to
to
do-
apples comparison here. You're doing
And it's like you get
apples to grapes
somebody
or whatever.
from the
it may
far
be.
left is not going to win Texas. You might win
no, I
some
get that.
cities
I
or
get that.
areas
I
or
get
stuff like
that.
that,
I get
but
that.
you're not going to.
I mean, the last governor candidate from the Democrat with Lupe. I mean, come on, really?
I know
That was weak.
just like-
That was weak. Only, and now she's trying to run for sheriff again. But I mean, and stop.
But I'm just saying, is
hey, Lupe,
you
stop
got-
texting
and
me.
that's where it's like Colin Allred. He's got a great resume,
He has an impeccable resume.
and so
Impeccable.
it's so he's like he's got a shot at all this stuff.
I would
It's-
hope, and I hope that we
But,
see a change.
but it's like you have to have somebody that it's not
Yeah.
the extreme left is not going to win Texas. You might could win some areas in Texas.
well, I mean,
but
it's
you're not
never
going
been an
to.
extreme left. We've all been moderate, middle center. I mean,
Yeah, but it's like you get. I mean, in some of the bigger cities, you get some people that are the extreme. I mean, can go for the extreme left.
well,
and-
it's interesting you mentioned that, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here real quick. Here, specifically, I mean, most of the larger cities are blue cities.
Yes.
You know, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and of course here Dallas. You know, of course, the recall that we had for Mayor Johnson here, obviously is probably going to fail. This is the individual who really hasn't spent any time sitting on the city council and any of the meetings and things of that sort. Even though it may be a soft, mayor role, he still doesn't participate in those meetings, and so it's not really about the city; it's about himself and lining his own pockets. And of course, he proclaimed himself a Republican 4 months after winning his re-election as a Democrat. But I don't believe they have I mean, they're probably like vastly short of the 105,000 signatures that are required for the recall. But I also wonder is like, somebody who actually gets a national stage like him as a now new Republican, how does that affect the rest of the city in regards to the way they vote in the future? Do they vote more towards a red versus a blue, where we've always been a blue city? I mean, 60% above.
It's like I haven't been following as much, but it's like I just don't get it because it's like the true Republicans are not going to vote for him. I mean, basically he won because the Democrats voted for him, and if he thinks he's got all this power and he's now going to be the Republican, it's just like it ain't going. I just don't see
I would love
what
to be
he
in
was
his,
trying to accomplish.
I would love to
and
be
all
in
that
his
stuff
brain
is.
to kind of figure out what his whole thought process was on. Because, like, if you think it's because you want to align yourself with Abbott and Patrick and that lazy eye Attorney General, I mean, that's just fucking stupid. But anyhow, we can go down. We could definitely go down Dallas politics as well. We can we can tear apart that entire city council, whether it be Democrats or Republicans, even though they're supposed to be
Because
like
there's been
neutral.
a lot of Democrats that have been very corrupt in Dallas.
Well, that's the whole problem with the city council here in the city of Dallas.
Oh, it is.
I mean, bottom line is we do need a strong mayor. We don't need individual like parcels of the community broken out where they have their own little mini banks and they control those monies and stuff like that, because that does actually bleed into corruption. So, but I mean, again, that's probably a whole podcast in of itself.
Oh, yeah.
So another episode in itself. But we do actually appreciate you guys spending some time with us today, and we hope to actually see you again here on Buddies, Booze, Banters, Unfiltered Conversations. I'm Rick.
Michael.
And I'm Alex.
See you later.
All right.